Hey everybody, Gabe Jenkins back with you. Hope you're having a great time with all this CAD stuff. AutoCAD is fun, and I hope you're having a great time with it. Today we're going to do this really interesting picture right here, which is number 13. It's the 13th drawing we've done, lucky number 13. Awesome. We are going to be able to use a new tool that I talked about in the overview video called the Polar Array tool, which is going to be super useful for you as you go forward in your AutoCAD career or kind of any CAD. Certainly exists in SolidWorks and every other CAD program you're ever going to use. And a polar array tool, just to reiterate really quickly, polar array tool lets us take an element, for example, like this little scooped out semicircle right here, and instead of having to do it again and again and again and again and again and place them all exactly where we want them to go, it allows us to create one and tell the CAD program, I want to repeat that element in a circle around a given center point. Okay? And maybe you want to do it 10 times, 12 times, 3 times. Maybe you want to say, I want them to go all the way around the circle, or maybe just halfway around the circle. Or maybe you want to say, I don't know how many I want, but I know I want there to be like 1 inch along the arc in between each one of them. You can kind of control all the parameters of what you want to do with that polar array, but essentially the gist of it is that it allows you to take one element and repeat that element around a central rotating like center point. So it's a really useful tool. There's other kinds of arrays which we'll talk about later on, but for today it's the polar array, P-O-L-A-R, like I don't know, like the pole, like the North Pole. Anyway, we're also going to be using some construction lines, and a lot of them in a way that looks a little crazy in the beginning, but they're all necessary. They're all useful. I guess you could kind of like put 2 up there, create an element, make the polar array around it, and then kind of delete them, but I don't know, that doesn't seem necessary. But just so you have an idea of what they look like, these are the construction lines that I created to do this drawing. So let's get started. All right, I'm going to start a new document over here, and I'm going to new document, and I'm going to use inches because this time the biggest thing I got is 10 inches, so that should fit on a 10 inches should fit on a thing. I'm going to move my screen up here. I'm going to start, before I do anything else, I'm going to start just creating some construction lines. Actually, you know what? I'm going to create one, the biggest circle, just to make sure everything fits. And in this case, my biggest circle, even though it's not even a circle, you can see where it would be. My biggest circle has a radius of 10 or a diameter of 20. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to start it here. I'm going to say diameter of 20. There we go. That looks good. Okay. All right. I'm going to now start to create a bunch of construction lines. Okay. And I want you to see this other kind of construction line. We've been using just a line and drawing it, but there's other, and every line we've drawn so far has a starting point and an end point, so it's a line segment actually. But there are other lines other construction lines we can do where they just kind of go off forever, infinite, right? And so where you can find that is if you go to the kind of just like hover over this down here, the draw, and you click on construction line that goes forever. You can click on that, and it allows you to create some infinite construction lines. I'm going to make a vertical one first, so I'm going to say it has to go through there, and I'm just going to click. So that's a vertical construction line, right? And it allows me to start to make more, right? So again, I have my dynamic input setting on, so it allows me to set the angles that I want. I want to have one that comes up at this angle right here. You know what? I'm going to make this a little easier maybe for us. All right. I'm just gonna make a regular line now because I don't want the next lines to be. It'll be a simpler visual. It'll be less cluttered looking. So I'm gonna start again at the 0, 0 part, and I'm gonna say I don't know exactly how long I want it to be, but I'll just say I'll have it go. It needs to be at an angle of 60 up from the horizontal. I'm going to do another one that goes off in this direction, tab over to here, and this is going to be 120. Okay, so the reason I'm doing that is it's going to let me see how far this element goes from here over to here. Now I also got to do ones that will let me see how far this traces out, right? And so it comes off at an angle. There's 120 degrees of arc in between that center point and that center point. So it's 120 degrees. That means there's 60 on this side, 60 on that side. So 60 means it's going 30 down, 30 down from the horizontal. So I'm going to go over here, say 30 down. Cool, make another one. And so this one is going to be coming over here. And where do I want this one? So 60. It's going to be 180. It's going to be 180, 150. Okay, 150. All right, so now that is there. You know what? I might need to extend that a little bit. I don't know why I made them so short. I wasn't thinking that much. Okay, make them at least go out as far as the circle. All right. The only other ones that I could make at this point would be the one that goes straight down here and up at that angle. I might even just pause and not do those yet. Okay. All right. So I got some construction lines gone, and I'm gonna go back to my visible layer, and I'm gonna start by making this little one little semicircle, and it says that my semicircles have a radius of 1.6. So I'm gonna go to my radius. Cool. Say 1.6. Awesome. All right. I'm now going to use the polar array tool. I'm going to trim away the parts that I don't want to replicate. And you can see, but just by trimming that away, I've created my first little scooped out part, right? That is the element now that I want to repeat as it goes around my circle. Okay. So if you go up into the modify tool, you're going to see a tool that looks right here. And if you do the drop down, there's rectangular arrays, path arrays, and polar arrays. Polar arrays lets you distribute something as you hover over it. It gives you the pop-up, shows you what it does, right? It lets you spin, like rotate something, like repeat that element around a central rotating point. Rectangular arrays, just as a quick preview, it lets you put things in rows and columns and repeat things in that way. And path allows you to take whatever element you want, have a path that you want those things to follow around, and the element follows that path around. We're going to use polar array though. All right. So so I click on polar array. It says, what do you want to spin around? What do you want to spin around? What do you want to rotate? What's the thing you want to repeat? So you hit that. Cool. You hit enter. Now it says, what's the midpoint? Meaning, where do you want this thing to spin around? So I'm going to pick my central point that I'm going to have it spin around. You can see as soon as I click that, right, it pops up all these things and it changes my menu bar at the top. And at this menu bar at the top, this is where you get to kind of decide what you want the parameters of it to be. So I'm just going to play with it for a second without making it correct or wrong. It says items. How many items do you want? So let's just see. If I say 3, you see, now I got 1, 2, 3. If I say I want 24, it's going to put 24 around. It's going to evenly space those things, right? So now in this case, they're overlapping. If I want to do it like it shows in the drawing, I actually have to sit there and count them up, right? So I got 12. Count them up, there's 12. And if I click that, cool. Now, these are other ways that you can control it. Do you want to say this is how much space should be in between the different elements? Right? Sometimes that's the way you want to decide it. Sometimes it's not. This one right here is very important. It says how much of that circle around the center point, how many degrees do you want it to fill at, right? And in this case, I wanted it to go all the way around. And so I wanted it to go 360 degrees around that center point, right? But look what happens. Say I just wanted it to go 120 degrees around. It's gonna just take 120 degrees and put those same 12 elements, but just combine them into so that's 120 degrees of fill. What if I wanted them to go the other way? I could click select direction, and that's going to make them go the other direction, right? Anyway, so you can change all of those things. And so I end up, in this case, I really do want it to go all the way around, and I want there to be 12, and so that looks good, okay? All right. When this all looks the way I want it to look, I'm going to hit close, and it's done. I'm now going to just trim away the parts that I want to kind of get rid of, right? Get rid of that. Get rid of that. And so now I got the whole external part of it done, right? I got all those little gear teeth showing and it looks great, okay? All right. Now, I think the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make these little circles right here. And so in order to I know that the center point of that circle is at the intersection of this construction line and that dotted line. That dotted line is an important line. And it says that circle that goes around the center point has a radius of 6. It's going to be the center point of all of these circles, and it's also going to be the center point here. So I need to make, on my construction layer, I need to make another circle. Whoop. Just need to make another circle with a radius of 6. So I'm going to click there. Cool. Go back to my visible layer. And now I'm going to make a circle with a diameter of 2. And I'm going to put it right here. Okay. This circle is the element that I'm going to use my polar array because I want it to repeat around that center point. I don't want it to go 360 degrees. I want it to go 120 degrees over to there, right? I guess I didn't really need that. I guess I didn't really need this construction line. You know, just going to get rid of it. I don't need it, okay? I just needed one so that I could place it in the right spot. So now that I know my element, the center point's going to be here. I know it goes 120 degrees in that direction, and I know I want 5 of them, right? So it says, what do I want? I want that. Cool. What's my center point? Click there, and it starts to populate what it thinks I want to do. I'm going to tell it how many I want, 5. And I don't want it to go 360 degrees around. I want it to go 120 degrees around. And I don't want it to go that direction. I want it to go the other direction. And so I click the direction button. And does it look right to me? Yes, it does. And I'm going to hit close because we're done. Okay? That one's done. Excellent. All right. Let's, for the sake of argument, let's just do this one. Let's do this like kind of arced pocket up here at the top, right? I know it starts, one circle starts here, one circle starts there. I'm in the right layer. All right, so I'm going to make a circle. This one, it says it has a radius of 1, so there's a diameter of 2 on that circle right there. So if I go right here and say diameter of 2, and I know I want another one over here. This is also like when we're starting to, see a more complex shape as parts that we can build on earlier ones and delete parts that trim parts we don't want, add to things. And it really becomes becomes kind of a necessary skill for you to have, for you to be able to break down a complex shape into its component parts. So I got 2 circles here, and I know that there's actually an arc that goes from here to here, and a separate arc that goes from here to here, right? So I look at all the kind of arcs I can build. 3-point arc, I don't know what the top point is. I know it's got to go from right here to right here, and I know what the center point is, which is there. Okay, so I know the start, I know the end, and I know the center point. So I know these are the 3 points I know. Now I want you just to see this real quick because sometimes it's confusing and it's frustrating, but I want you to see what happens here. If I click here, it's a specify the center point, specify the center point, and now I'm going to go here. You can see it's going the whole wrong direction, right? It's going the wrong direction. But if I hit the control button, it looks right. Okay. Now it's done exactly like I want it to do. All right, let's do it again. This time I want you to see this. If you go from this side, and I don't know why it makes this decision, but it does. If you go from here to here, you don't have to hit the control button. I think it has to do with whether you're going clockwise or counterclockwise, anti-clockwise, as the British say. Click that. Okay, so that's the kind of arc where it's, if you know the start point, the end point, and the center of the arc, like the center of the circle that arc is part of. And now we just need to trim away the parts that we need to get rid of. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. That and that. Cool. Zoom out a little bit. Now we're almost done. Okay. I told you there's one more construction line we're going to need, which is, as we zoom in, I know that we're going to make these three little things in the middle, right? These little rings right here. So I know that the outer circle has a diameter of 6, the inner circle has a diameter of 4, and I know that each one goes from, we'll say like, let's just pick this one right here. We're going to make this one, and then we'll spin it around the polar array. So I know that this line right here, this boundary line right here is going straight down, and I know that this boundary line is going up at a 110 degrees of arc up from here. Well, if this is 90 down and that goes over, I need it to go 20 up. That line right there is 20 up from the vertical in on that side over there. So I'm going to go here, make another line, starts again here, and it goes tab over to my thing. So if it's 20 up from 180, it's going to be 160, and so that's going to be where it ends. Okay, I am going to, let's see, I am going to, let's make my construction circles. Okay, there's a couple ways you could do it. You could just make 2 circles and then cut little pieces away, but I'm not going to do that. All right, I'm going to use our arc tool like we were using a second ago, and I'm going to do it that way. All right, so the small one is got a diameter of 4, and the bigger one's got a diameter of 6. So those are kind of the starting point and end points. I know I should be working on the visible line right now. All right, so I'm going to make this line right here, from there to there, exit, and this is all in the visible plane now. This one goes from here to here. Cool. Now I need to make one more arc here, and then polar array it around. So I'm going to go back to my arc tool, and I know that this one goes from here. That's the center point, and that's the end. And one more goes from here. That's the center point, and that's the end. Okay, I'm going to turn off the construction so we can just really clearly see what we got here. So now we just have this one. We got this one little piece right here, and we're going to use the polar array one more time. But before I do that, I just want to do this. I want to just show you this. If I want to join all those things into one piece, if I go down here to the command bar, I can hit join. It says, what do you want to join? So instead of having AutoCAD think of these 4 things as separate things, I just wanted to think of it as one thing. That makes my life a little bit easier, because that's how I think about it. So now I'm going to do this. I'm going to click on this guy and say polar array. And what's my center point? That's my center point. I don't want 6. I want 3. And I do want it to go 360 degrees around. I want it to go all the way around. And that looks good. The direction looks fine. Doesn't matter. I don't care about any of this other stuff. And I'm going to hit OK. And at that point, everybody, we have our drawing complete. And it's fun. Using the polar array is super cool. You're going to learn as you start to make more and more things that has any kind of radial symmetry. It's a super useful tool. And I'm hoping that you get a chance to play around with it a little bit, mess with the parameters, mess with how many things you want, how far around you want the array to go, and how many elements you want in the array. Like, mess around with it a little bit and just get used to how it works, because getting more comfortable with how it works is going to help you out going forward, and certainly on the next quiz. All right. Hope you're having a great day, and I hope that this was fun for you. Talk to you later.